Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. The wind knocked over the trash can just as she closed the door behind her. Startled me, but she didn't even flinch. She was too busy smiling at her phone, probably replying to that message she didn't want me to see. The one she tilted her screen away for, like I was a stranger in my own house. She left in high heels and a red dress I hadn't seen in over a year. Lipstick darker than usual. Hair curled, nails done, perfume strong. Too strong. Like she needed to outshine something or someone. She didn't say goodbye. Didn't ask me to come. Just walked past me with a flippant, "Don't wait up." I didn't. I sat on the couch and listened to the clock tap out every second she was gone. I tried to focus on a movie, but I couldn't even remember the title 10 minutes in. I scrolled through my phone, opened and closed apps, stared at her last text from earlier that said, "It's just a small work thing." That was a lie. I knew it. At 11:23 p.m. I got a text from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. It was her, laughing, leaning against a guy's chest. He had his hand around her waist like he'd done it 100 times. Her head was tilted up, eyes locked on him like I never existed. The timestamp showed it was taken 5 minutes ago. I didn't respond. I didn't call. I didn't blow up her phone like the desperate husband I was. I just sat there, silent, humiliated, and boiling from the inside out. She came home at 2:06 a.m. Drunk? No. Sober. Calm. But glowing. That kind of glow you don't get from wine or dancing. That glow that comes from being wanted by someone new. She didn't look at me. Walked past me again, humming something low under her breath. She went to bed like I wasn't even part of the story anymore. This morning, I left a note by her toothbrush. "You know what you did, and so do I." I didn't sign it. She didn't need me to. She walked out of the bathroom holding the note like it was something wet and rotting. Her hands trembled. Her lips parted, but no words came out. And just like that, I turned and walked out the front door. For the first time in years, I didn't wait for her to explain. I didn't come home that night. I walked for hours, through streets I didn't know, past houses with dim porch lights and laughter behind windows I didn't belong to. I ended up in a diner that hadn't updated its menu since the 90s. I sat in a booth and ordered coffee I didn't touch. My phone buzzed twice, both times her name. I didn't read the messages. I just watched them pop up and disappear. Like us, I guess. By the time I dragged myself home, the sun was bleeding into the sky. The house was still. Her car was in the driveway, but the blinds were shut tight like the truth she tried to keep from me. I wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. Not when every time I pictured her face, it was pressed against someone else's chest. I sat in the car for a long while, engine off, watching the condensation roll down the windshield like the breakdown I refused to have. That's when I noticed it. Something on the porch. A small brown package. No return address. My name scribbled in shaky ink across the front. No postage, which meant someone had delivered it personally. I picked it up slowly, cautiously, like it might explode. In a way, it did. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note. For words, all caps, no punctuation. "She's been lying for months." I felt something twist in my chest. I looked back at the house. Every window felt like an eye, watching me, mocking me, judging me for not seeing it sooner. I didn't go inside. I took the package and drove to an empty parking lot behind a gas station. Plugged the drive into my laptop and waited. There were 6 video files, all named by date. The oldest one from 3 months ago. The newest, last night. I opened the first file. It was grainy footage. Security camera angle. A bar, maybe. She was sitting at a high-top table across from Jace. Yeah, that Jace. The one she claimed was just new. They weren't kissing. Not yet. But their body language, it was undeniable. The leaning in. The touch on the wrist. The look of someone who forgot their wedding ring wasn't invisible. The second video? Worse. Another night. A different place. They were holding hands. Walking out of what looked like a hotel lobby. Her head on his shoulder. She looked happy. happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. By the time I got to the last file, the one from last night, I couldn't breathe. It was from inside the party. Someone had followed them with a phone. She was in that same red dress. He was holding her by the hips as they danced, close, too close, her head thrown back in laughter, his mouth inches from hers. People were watching. No one seemed surprised. The camera panned, and then I saw her phone. My name lit up on the screen. An incoming call she declined with a smirk. I don't remember closing the laptop. I just sat there in the car, my hands gripping the steering wheel like I was afraid I'd fall apart otherwise. My wife wasn't just at a party. She was in a whole other world. One I wasn't part of. One she didn't even try to hide anymore. And now someone wanted me to know. Someone who'd been watching her. Watching us. But why? Who sent those videos? And more importantly, what the hell do they want from me next? I didn't go to work Monday morning. I told my boss I was sick, which wasn't entirely untrue. I was sick of pretending, sick of wondering, sick of the lies wearing a familiar face. I parked my car 2 blocks from our house and walked back. Quiet, careful, like I wasn't supposed to be there. In a way, I wasn't. I'd become a ghost in my own life, present but no longer seen. She thought I had left for the day. I always leave by 7:30. She waited until 8:15 to call someone. I heard her voice through the slightly cracked bedroom window. Calm, cheerful, effortless. "He's gone," she said. "You can swing by later if you want." I didn't recognize the voice on the other end, but his laugh was smug, too comfortable, the kind of laugh that only lives in routines. This wasn't new. This wasn't exciting. This was practiced. I stood there, in the bushes by our bedroom, phone recording in my pocket, heart beating in my throat. "I'll bring coffee," the man said. She laughed. "Bring that cinnamon thing I like." He said something else that made her blush and tell him to stop. I didn't want to hear more. Couldn't. I slipped into the side door, the one she never locks, and waited in the guest room, the one we turned into a reading space we never used. I sat on the floor like a trespasser, knees tucked to my chest, and listened to the house go quiet. She moved around like she had nothing to hide. Music came on low, some playlist she never shared with me. I heard her shower, then humming, then silence, for nearly an hour. At exactly 9:26, the doorbell rang. Couldn't breathe. She opened the door and let him in. He didn't even say hello. He kissed her, just like that, like it was his place, like I didn't exist, like our wedding photos weren't hanging 5 feet away. They walked toward the kitchen. I followed their footsteps with my ears. I could tell where they were by the sound of the floorboards. I knew this house better than they did. I knew that the third board in front of the fridge squeaks if you step just right. He stepped on it. She told him to be quiet, laughing. He told her she was dangerous. Dangerous. That's what I married, apparently. I didn't storm out. I didn't throw open the door. I didn't confront them like a man in a movie. I stayed curled up in that room, heart racing, recording still running. Because in that moment, I realized something. I needed to know everything. I needed to see the full scope of the betrayal, not just the parts one stumbled upon. I needed it documented. Not for court. Not for friends. For me. So I could never again gaslight myself into believing I was overreacting. They didn't stay long. 30 minutes. That's all it took to shatter a decade of loyalty. 30 minutes, 2 cinnamon pastries, and a few stolen kisses between insults about how uptight I'd become. I didn't know which was worse, the cheating or the way she talked about me like I was a chore. When he left, she didn't look guilty. She looked relaxed, like she'd gotten something off her chest. I slipped out 10 minutes later, unnoticed. I walked back to my car and sat inside, shaking. My hands couldn't grip the wheel without trembling. I had the audio. I had the footage. I had proof she was no longer mine if she ever was. But I also had questions. Who was that man? Why did he sound familiar? And why, when I checked my phone again, did I have another anonymous message waiting for me? This time with a voice recording and a single sentence attached. "You don't know the half of it." The voice message was only 9 seconds long, but it cracked something open in me that no video ever could. I sat in the parking lot behind an old laundromat, thumb hovering over the play button, heart already pounding. I don't know what I expected. Another stranger's voice, maybe a recording of her laughing again, carelessly erasing everything we built. But what I heard instead made my skin go cold. Bro, if you're still watching this, don't be mad. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. She said you two were practically done. That voice, that nervous stammer at the end, that forced chuckle trying to smooth over something rotten. It was my younger brother, Nolan. I hadn't spoken to him in almost 2 years. Not since he borrowed money from our late mother's inheritance and vanished across the state with some failed startup idea and a girlfriend he barely knew. I didn't even know he was back in town. And now, apparently, he was in my wife. I sat there in stunned silence, my mind replaying every recent moment through a new, nauseating filter. The way Darla acted strange when I asked about my brother at Christmas. The way she changed the subject. The way she said, "He's not your problem anymore." No, he wasn't. He was hers now. I replayed the message. Listened closely. He sounded tired, guilty, but not enough to stop. Not enough to face me like a man. Instead, he sent the message anonymously, like some coward trying to clean his conscience without getting his hands dirty. My hands were trembling as I scrolled back through the anonymous messages. I never noticed it before, but one of the video files, one of the earliest ones, was titled N_J_Deck_7. At the time, I thought it was a file format glitch, but now it clicked. N for Nolan. J for Jace? Or was that a cover name? Had he been using a fake name all along? I opened the clip again and paused on his face. It was grainy, dim, but unmistakable. My little brother, my own blood, kissing my wife in a hotel lobby 3 months ago. On the same weekend, she told me she was attending a firm leadership seminar. I remembered that weekend well. I stayed home and repainted the guest room because she said she wanted a new vibe for reading. Irony burns differently when it's personalized. I didn't cry. I laughed. Not out of amusement, but because I finally understood what people meant when they say betrayal doesn't just wound, it infects. I didn't text her. I didn't call him. I drove home in silence, my jaw locked, chest tight, fingers digging into the steering wheel. When I pulled into the driveway, she was out back watering her plants like nothing was wrong. She waved at me, smiled, wiped sweat from her brow and asked if I wanted iced tea. I said yes, because I wasn't ready to explode. Not yet. I needed more. Proof of how far this had gone. How deep. And as I sat across from her on the patio, sipping tea made by the same hand that touched him, I finally asked something I never thought I would. "Have you heard from Nolan lately?" She blinked, caught off guard, but only for a second. "No, not in ages." "Why?" Her voice didn't crack. Her hands didn't tremble. She was good. Too good. I smiled. "Oh, just wondered. Someone mentioned they saw him around." She shrugged. "Probably just a look-alike." I nodded and took another sip. But inside, I was screaming, because I knew exactly who I was looking at. And I was almost certain she knew that I knew, but she didn't know what I had planned next. I told her I'd be out of town for 2 days. A conference. Nothing special. Just enough time, I said, to get my head back into work. She didn't ask many questions, which told me everything I needed to know. A wife doesn't let her husband disappear for 48 hours without so much as a goodbye hug unless she's waiting for someone else to fill the space he leaves behind. Before I left, I set up 2 hidden cameras, one in the hallway, one in the guest room. Both pointed toward the living room. One was built into a coat hook, the other disguised as a charging dock on the bookshelf. The kind you could buy online in 5 minutes. She wouldn't suspect a thing. Why would she? According to her, I was still the trusting, gullible man she married. The moment I drove off, I parked 3 streets down and watched the live feed on my phone. Nothing happened for the first 6 hours. She moved around the house like normal. Ate lunch. Took a call. Opened the fridge. Sat on the couch scrolling. A performance of normalcy. But then, around 5:12 p.m., she changed. Put on makeup. Pulled her hair back. spritzed herself with perfume. That same bottle I bought her last Christmas. The one she only wore when we used to go out on dates. I watched her pace near the window. She was waiting, checking, fixing her dress, glancing at the door like she was 15 again and sneaking a boy in while her parents weren't home. Then the knock came. She rushed to the door, practically tripping over herself. And there he was, Nolan, my brother, my blood, wearing one of my old jackets. How poetic. They didn't talk long, just a few muffled greetings. Then their mouths met, shameless and urgent, and within seconds they disappeared out of frame, leaving only the sounds. His voice, her moans, my house. I stared at the screen like it was fiction, like maybe if I blinked long enough it would glitch and vanish. Didn't. I wanted to break something, but rage wasn't useful anymore. Rage is noisy. I needed silence, precision, evidence. By 8 p.m., they were lounging on the couch laughing about something. Probably me. Probably my voice or my hair or the way I still packed her lunch for work like an idiot. She leaned her head on his shoulder. He kissed her temple. And then, this part still haunts me, he said. One day we won't have to hide. She replied, it's already over. He just doesn't know it yet. I closed the app. That was all I needed. Later that night, while she was asleep and I was still parked down the road, I emailed myself the video clips, backed them up to multiple drives, labeled them with neutral names, nothing obvious, just in case. I didn't want revenge. Not really. But I wanted the truth to have a pulse. Something undeniable. Something they couldn't twist or walk back. The next morning, I called a locksmith. And by noon, the locks were changed. I packed only what I needed. Essentials. Documents. My mother's old photo album. I left everything else. I didn't even leave a note. Just a printout on the kitchen table, a still image from the camera feed. The one of them kissing. Under it, in red ink, I wrote, one day came early. I left the house through the back door. Quietly. But something told me the storm waiting behind me would be anything but quiet. I don't know what I expected her reaction to be when she realized I was gone. Panic? Regret? Some melodramatic sobbing like the kind she used to do after small fights about takeout or chores. But what happened next was better than anything I could have scripted. It was 7:42 a.m. when she tried to open the front door. I watched it unfold from my phone through the feed I hadn't yet disabled. She was wearing one of my old hoodies, barefoot, hair in a messy bun, a mug in one hand. She twisted the handle, tugged again, then paused, confused. She tried the deadbolt, the security chain, again. Her face shifted, from sleepy confusion to full-blown realization. Her shoulders dropped. She turned back toward the kitchen and noticed the paper on the table. She didn't touch it at first, just stared, like she already knew what it was. When she finally picked it up and saw the image, the still frame of her wrapped around Nolan, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood there, completely still, holding her shame like it was fragile glass. 10 seconds later, her phone rang. It was Nolan. She didn't answer. I don't know why, but that part struck me the hardest. Not the betrayal. Not the footage. Not even the fact that it was my own brother. It was the way she didn't pick up. Like she didn't need him anymore. Or maybe like she realized too late that he was never the point, he was just the escape hatch. She tried calling me. 3 times. Voicemail each time. Then she started texting. Lowell, please, just talk to me. I messed up. I know. But we can fix this. It didn't mean anything. It was just a mistake. You're blowing this out of proportion. We haven't even been happy. Don't do this. Each message chipped away at the carefully crafted illusion she had built around herself. They weren't the words of someone sorry. They were the words of someone caught. By noon, she was calling from different numbers. I blocked them all. She left voicemails ranging from guilt-tripping to begging to rage. She even tried reaching out to mutual friends, saying I was having a breakdown, that I was making things up, and that I had probably edited those videos. She was spinning every possible version of the story, hoping someone would bite. But I'd already gotten ahead of her. Hours before she woke up, I had sent a private email to 3 people we were close with. Not gossip, just facts. One short paragraph, a single image, one link to the unedited, timestamped video. No commentary, no accusations, no dirty details. Let the truth speak for itself. The fallout was quick. Her best friend, Marcy, texted me saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know. I believe you." One of her coworkers emailed me back, "I always had a weird feeling about them. I should have said something." Even her own sister, someone who never liked me, called and left a voicemail whispering, "You didn't deserve that. None of it." Darla? She went quiet around 5 p.m. No more calls, no more texts. But I wasn't stupid. The silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. And sure enough, just after sunset, I got an email. No subject line, no greeting, just a short sentence. "You want to play games, Lowell? Let's play." Attached was a photo of a document, something that looked like a legal form. I opened it. It was a petition for divorce, filed by her, claiming I had abandoned her. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was pathetic. This was her next move? Gaslight the courts like she tried to gaslight me? But that's when I realized something chilling. She wasn't trying to win back our marriage. She was trying to destroy me before I could speak. The divorce petition wasn't just a legal jab, it was a declaration of war. In her version of the story, I was the unstable husband who cracked under pressure and fled. She painted herself as the abandoned wife left with no choice but to seek legal protection. The audacity of it was so outrageous, I had to read it twice to even believe she had the nerve. But the final page confirmed it. Her signature, dated that very morning, underlined with that same little heart she used to sign birthday cards with. Like even betrayal needed branding. I wasn't going to play this quietly anymore. I met with an attorney the next day, a friend of a friend. She was sharp, no nonsense, and when I handed her the video evidence, the audio clips, the screenshots, and the voicemail recordings, she leaned back in her chair and said, "She's not going to like this at all." I told her I wasn't filing for revenge. I just wanted to be the one telling the truth before Darla could finish weaponizing her lies. My lawyer filed a counterpetition within hours, attaching the proof. Adultery, emotional abuse, intentional deception. It wasn't about money. I didn't care if I walked away with a backpack and a sandwich. I just wanted the record straight. No one would get to rewrite my name without my permission. That same night, I sent Darla an email. No insults, no threats, just this: "If you want to go public, I'm ready. Just make sure you read the part where you said, 'He just doesn't know it yet.' Because now I do." 10 minutes later, she called. I didn't answer. 5 minutes after that, another number rang through. "Nolan." I didn't answer that either. Then came the voicemail. His voice, breathless and defensive, tripping over excuses. "Look, I didn't know she'd actually file. I thought you guys were over, man. She told me you were checked out. I didn't mean for this to happen, Lowell. Please call me back." I played it twice. Not because I needed to hear it, but because I wanted to feel the full weight of how far people will go to protect their own lies. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry they couldn't keep it hidden. But the real twist came later that week. Darla showed up at my new place. I'd moved into a short-term rental across town. She didn't know the address, but somehow, through friends, through family, maybe even tracking my location before I cut her off, she found it. She knocked like it was just another evening, like she was still entitled to my time. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. She stood there in a coat too thin for the cold, eyes red-rimmed but dry. Her voice was calm, too calm. "You really want to throw away everything we had over this?" I laughed, not because it was funny, but because even now, she was still pretending this was about me reacting poorly, not her detonating the entire foundation of our marriage. "You threw it away the moment you let him in our bed," I said. She flinched but didn't back down. "You're being dramatic. People survive worse." I stepped closer, just enough so she could feel the finality in my voice. "I didn't survive it. I ended it." She started to say something else. Probably one last manipulative monologue. But I closed the door before she could. She knocked twice more. Then silence. Then footsteps. And when I checked the peephole again, she was gone. But not for long. Because if I knew Darla, and I unfortunately knew her too well, she wasn't finished. She never was. Darla didn't show up again after that night. I half expected her to send another storm of texts or escalate things through her attorney. But all I got was silence. It wasn't peace, not at first, it was tension waiting to snap. I slept with one eye open, always expecting the next twist. But then days passed. Then a week. And I realized, maybe she was finally done. Or maybe she realized I was. The divorce moved quickly. Once she saw the mountain of evidence, her side stopped making noise. My attorney said it was the quietest negotiation she'd seen in months. No fight over assets. No desperate clawing for spousal support. Just a flat signature on paper and a delivery confirmation 2 days later. It was like she wanted it over. Fast. Maybe to move on with Nolan. Maybe to escape the humiliation. I didn't care either way. I didn't respond. I didn't say goodbye. That version of me, husband, forgiver, pushover, was already gone. The weird part? The pain didn't last as long as I feared. Still hit in waves, sure. Sometimes I'd find her earrings in a drawer or stumble on old photos we forgot to delete from the cloud. But it wasn't the heartbreak that stayed with me. It was the awakening. How long had I been sleepwalking through my own life? Nodding, tolerating, trying to keep the peace in a war she'd already started without me? A month later, I started going to a small cafe downtown. Nothing fancy, just quiet, full of mismatched chairs and forgotten books on dusty shelves. One morning, I was scribbling notes in a journal when someone walked by and said, "That pen makes you look like a writer." I looked up. She smiled. Her name was Elise. She wasn't loud. She didn't try too hard. She didn't flirt like it was a performance. We talked. About coffee. About books. About starting over. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to apologize for existing. We're not rushing anything. We're just being. And that's more than enough right now. So yeah, my wife cheated on me with my brother. She tried to rewrite my story and make me the villain. But in the end, I got to hold the pen. And I decided how this chapter ended. Not with bitterness. Not with revenge. But with truth, clarity, and the quiet power of walking away before you lose yourself completely. Thanks for listening to my story. If you made it this far, I want to hear from you. What part of this story hit you the hardest? Would you have handled things differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget, this is the Reddit Confessions channel, where real people share the stories they never thought they'd tell. If you're going through something similar, let this be a reminder. You deserve honesty, peace, and a life that feels like your own. Thanks for watching.